Radiant got me on its side nice and early. It's this interesting world based upon floating islands. Smaller ones with towns, larger ones holding up major cities or nations, and some cannibalizing themselves just to keep the lights running. And that alone immediately got me interested in this series. And though a good chunk of that does come from my first ever D&D campaign being set in a similar floating islands world, I just love the setting. I was so engaged from the first shot of our heroes just skydiving into a new adventure. Maybe Radiant would be that new series for me to keep up to date on over the coming years. Well, what's the story about? There's these creatures known as nemesis that seemingly drop at random from the sky. If they touch someone, they kill them. Only a few people can survive that being touched by a nemesis, and those are called the sorcerers, the only people with the skills to batter back the nemesis using magic that they call Fantasia. We follow one particular young sorcerer known as Seth, as he goes on his journey to uncover the truth behind where the nemesis really come from, leading him to find new allies, enemies, and uncover the secrets being kept from him. The world ends up expanding quite a lot. There's this evolving political aspect, new factions being formed, and even more questions being raised. The story widening out at a pretty steady pace. So we've got an interesting world, a solid premise, and then some absolutely fantastic art to pull it all together. Some consistently really well done drawings mixed together with color pages that just put so much life into this world. I really can't fault Radiant at all for anything in the art department. The series actually comes from a French artist, it's Aman Fra, and I really like seeing manga styles coming out of different places in the world. Though, at least for this series, so far it's playing straight to the tropes you would expect in traditional Japanese manga. Beyond that, the series got an anime adaptation, which I've heard mixed reviews about. I haven't watched it myself, but at the very least it brought more eyes to the series. I know for me, the series completely slipped by my radar until it was recommended to me, and I definitely enjoyed it while I was reading it. That all sounds great, so why do I call this series just okay? Maybe this is simply me coming from having read a lot of shonen over the years, but Radiant feels like one of the broadest brushes I've read in a long time. Okay, I'm about to sum up the plot of Radiant, so big spoilers if you haven't read it, and if you have, yes, this is intentionally going to be trivializing the series. Okay, we follow our hothead young male hero. He's altruistic, commonly putting himself into harm's way to help others. He has some absurdly strong power that he doesn't have control over yet, but will always bail him out if he gets too close to dying. He very quickly finds a goal to achieve. He'll quickly align himself with a team that will help him on his journey. There's something cute and or comic relief, the female friend who someone eventually has to fall in love with, the edgy friend that people always think are cool, and over the course of their journey there will be some bumps, but by the end they will all stand together, the power of friendship. And then the villains start coming in, some sort of organization or squad of villains, a group headed up by some evil government. Our hero quickly gains a particular relationship with one of the villains, whether that be a rival or a future ally, and there'll be an early clash that realistically the hero shouldn't survive, yet they will anyway, most likely off the back of that mysterious power that they can't control. Then montage through a few more arcs with some absurdly quick power jumps that completely trivialize what the old threats were, and finish it up by adding a bit of awkward sexual humor because, you know, we're writing for the kids here. And if we wanted to go a bit further, we could even chuck in a relative that you didn't know was related at all, a trope of our hero being an outcast, and everyone's favorite thing in a story, I have amnesia! This was the big thing for me while reading Radiant. It's a shonen. It feels like every shonen, and I couldn't get over the feeling that I've read this story before. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not doing a poor job with the tropes or anything. If you live and breathe shonen stories, you'll probably have an amazing time with this series. I genuinely think if this series dropped as it is now, but 20 years ago, this would have been massive. It does so many of those ideas well. For me, Radiant failed to carve out its own niche. I enjoyed it enough, and I might catch up again sometime next year to see where the current arc goes, but I'm not overly invested in it in the way that I have been other stories. There's no one thing to pull me back into this story. It feels a bit like it's got a list of tropes that it's trying to tick off. At the moment, it's still playing it too close to the chest with its plot. Seth is going to get stronger, there'll be some big showdown with the evil organization again, some new clue will get revealed of his history, the evil organization or the nemesis, and then the gang will float on to the next island to do it all again. Altogether, it just feels safe, sticking to a tried and true formula and not doing anything to set it apart from other series out there. For me, it all sort of blurred together with other series that I've read. Oh, Melee's got a split personality like Launch, or yes, I have read the series, Mocha. Oh, Seth is your standard hothead hero like Luffy or Naruto or Natsu or early Gon or Eren. Oh, we've got our evil government villains like the Gotai 13 or the World Government or the Claymore Organization. For some people, they're gonna eat this up. It's like a combining of the best bits of other stories and admittedly some of the tropes that just should really stop, but Radiant takes that combination and repackages it well. Beautiful art, beautiful world, and some interesting concepts and hooks to keep engaged. And this will work for some people, and it has. The story has already passed 100 chapters and got an anime adaptation, so clearly the story is working and has its fans. I get it, there's a lot to like in this story. But for me, it all hits a bit too generically for me to get into. I still think the story has a lot of potential. If it manages to stir up the plot with the current arc, then I can see it still making a bigger splash. For now, if shonen is your thing, or it has just piqued your interest, then I would recommend it. I think it's a perfectly okay read at the moment. Otherwise, I'd say you're not missing out on too much in Radiant, though if you've got the time, maybe it's one to keep on your radar. Thanks for watching. This has been CG, and I will see you Gs in the next one.